The emergency lights bathed the bridge in red as Captain Sarah Chen gripped the command chair. Around her, the crew of the exploration vessel, Horizon's Edge, fought to keep their ship together, while something impossible hammered against their hull. Hull breach on Deck 7. Engineering Officer Rodriguez shouted over the screaming alarms. We're losing atmosphere fast. Sarah's knuckles went white. They were supposed to be on a routine survey mission in the Kepler 442 system. Instead, they'd stumbled into humanity's first contact with an alien intelligence, and it was trying to kill them. Return fire, she ordered. Ma'am, our weapons aren't even scratching it, replied Weapons Officer Park, sweat beading on his forehead. That thing's shields are unlike anything in our database. Through the main view screen, Sarah watched the alien vessel dance around their attacks with impossible grace. It looked like a massive crystalline flower, its petals shifting through colors that had no names, beautiful and deadly. Then, without warning, the attack stopped. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of life support and the distant sound of repair crews. Sarah's heart pounded as she stared at the alien ship now floating motionless just a kilometer away. Captain, Communications Officer Liu called out, her voice shaking. We're receiving a transmission. It's in perfect English. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Put it through. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that defied description. The being before them was humanoid in shape but seemed to be made of living starlight. Its features shifted constantly, sometimes appearing almost human, other times utterly alien. When it spoke, its voice was like music mixed with the sound of solar wind. I am Zara Kithara of the Luminous Collective, the being said. And Sarah noticed something strange. Despite its otherworldly appearance, there was desperation in its voice. I have searched the galaxy for someone like you, Captain Sarah Chen, of Earth. Sarah's blood ran cold. How did it know her name? You have 37 minutes before my people arrive. Zara Kithara continued, its form pulsing with urgent light. When they do, they will destroy your ship and everyone aboard it. There is only one way to save your crew, your species, and myself. The being leaned forward, and for a moment its features solidified into something almost human. A woman with eyes like dying stars. You must take me as your wife, Captain Chen. Bond with me according to the ancient laws of my people. Or we are all doomed to an eternal fate, worse than death. The bridge erupted in shocked murmurs, but Sarah couldn't look away from those impossible eyes. In them, she saw something she recognized, the same desperation she'd felt when her own world had faced extinction during the resource wars. Why? Sarah asked quietly. Why me? Why us? Zara Kithara's form shimmered with what might have been relief at the question. Because, Captain, your species possesses something mine has lost, something we need to survive, and something that could save us both from the darkness that comes. Before Sarah could respond, the proximity alarm screamed to life. On the long-range sensors, new contacts appeared. Dozens of them, each one larger than Zara Kithara's ship. 36 minutes, Zara Kithara whispered, and her voice carried the weight of civilizations. Choose quickly, human. Your answer will determine the fate of two species. Sarah looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew, people who trusted her to bring them home safely. Then she looked back at the being who claimed to hold their salvation in an impossible bargain. What choice did she really have? Chapter 2. The Ancient Laws. This is insane. Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's xenobiologist, paced back and forth in the conference room. We're talking about an alien marriage ceremony with a being we don't understand, to save ourselves from other aliens we understand even less. Sarah sat at the head of the table. Her senior staff gathered around her. Through the porthole, they could see Zara Kithara's ship, still maintaining its distance but somehow seeming to pulse with anticipation. Insane or not, it might be our only option, Sarah replied. Those incoming ships will be here in 32 minutes. Our weapons are useless and we can't outrun them. But what does she mean by ancient laws? Asked Counselor Patricia Okafor, the ship's diplomatic advisor. Marriage customs vary wildly even among human cultures. What could an alien species possibly mean by the term? I've been analyzing the linguistic patterns in her speech, Communications Officer Lou interjected, pulling up data on her tablet. The translation matrix is picking up some interesting things. When she says wife, the alien word she's using has connotations of soul bond, life anchor, and something that roughly translates to reality weaver. Dr. Webb stopped pacing. Reality weaver? That sounds like more than just a ceremonial title. Sarah activated the communication channel. Zara Kithara, we need more information. What exactly are these ancient laws you're referring to? The being's image appeared on the top main screen, its form more agitated than before. Captain, my people were once like yours, bound by flesh, limited by matter. But we transcended, became beings of pure energy and thought. In doing so, we gained immortality. But we lost something precious. What did you lose? Sarah asked.
The ability to truly die. Zara Kithara's voice carried profound sadness. And with it, the ability to truly live. We exist now as echoes of ourselves, fading slowly across eons. But the ancient laws, written when we still had physical forms,
provide one escape. The being's form solidified slightly, becoming more recognizably feminine. If one of our kind bonds with a being of flesh and passion, we can anchor ourselves to reality again. But it must be a true bond. Not just ceremony, but a melding of souls across the species barrier. And what happens to the human in this bond? Dr. Webb demanded. Zara Kithara hesitated. They become more than human. The bond grants extended life, enhanced abilities, a connection to the cosmic forces that govern space and time. But they also become tied to our fate. Which is, Sarah? Pressed. If the bond is accepted by the luminous collective, both species gain powerful allies. If it is rejected, Zara Kithara's form flickered with fear. Both the bonded pair and their peoples face eternal exile in the void between dimensions. Weapons. Officer Park checked his sensors. Captain, those ships are moving faster than projected, 28 minutes now. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command like never before. When she opened them again, her decision was made. What exactly does this bonding ceremony involve? Zara Kithara's form brightened with hope. Physical contact, an exchange of life essence, and a declaration before the cosmos itself. It is intimate, Captain, and irreversible. Captain, Counselor Okafor said quietly, you're talking about sacrificing your humanity for people you've never met. No, Sarah replied, standing up. I'm talking about expanding it. But as she prepared to give her answer, the ship suddenly shuddered. Emergency klaxons blared as new contacts appeared on sensors, these ones much closer than expected. Captain, Lou shouted over the alarms. We're being hailed by the lead ship of the collective fleet. They're demanding we surrender Zara Kithara immediately. The main screen split, showing both Zara Kithara and a new alien presence, this one darker, more angular, radiating cold authority. Rogue child, the new voice intoned, you have violated the laws of exile. Prepare to face judgment. Zara Kithara's form pulsed with defiance. I invoke the right of ancient bonding. This human vessel is under my protection. The dark being's laughter was like the sound of dying worlds. Foolish child. No flesh-bound species has successfully completed the bonding in 1,000 cycles. You offer them false hope. Sarah stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. Then we'll be the first to succeed. Both alien beings turned their attention to her, and Sarah felt the weight of their gaze like gravity itself. I accept the bond, she declared. But I want guarantees. If we succeed, both our species gain full diplomatic relations and mutual protection. And I want proof that this isn't just another way to destroy us. The dark being's form rippled with what might have been amusement. Very well, human, but know this. The bonding must be completed before we reach your vessel. Fail, and your ship becomes cosmic dust. Succeed. It paused meaningfully. And you will discover that there are fates far more interesting than death. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with Zara Kithara's hopeful image, and the sound of her crew's rapid breathing. 18 minutes, Captain, Park reported quietly. Sarah straightened her uniform and looked at each of her officers in turn. Dr. Webb, I want you monitoring every aspect of this procedure. Liu, maintain open channels with both fleets. Everyone else, prepare for the unknown. She turned back to Zara Kithara. What do we do first? The alien being's form seemed to glow with new determination. First, Captain, I must tell you why I chose you specifically, and why the success of our bonding may determine the fate of the entire galaxy. Sarah materialized in the transporter bay of Zara Kithara's ship, her molecules still tingling from the alien teleportation technology. The space around her defied description. Walls that seemed to be made of crystallized music, floors that rippled like liquid starlight, and an atmosphere that tasted of cosmic winds. Welcome to the Eternal Chorus, Zara Kithara said, her form now more solid and human-like than before. Here, the boundary between thought and reality is thin. Sarah looked around in wonder and growing unease. Your people built this? Built is not the right word. We became this ship, just as we became everything else when we transcended flesh. Zara Kithara gestured and the walls around them became transparent, revealing the vast fleet of collective ships approaching. But in becoming everything, we became nothing. That is why I need you. They moved through corridors that seemed to reshape themselves with each step, following paths that existed only as long as they walked them. Sarah's tactical mind noted defensive positions and escape routes, but quickly realized that conventional thinking was useless here. You said you chose me specifically, Sarah said as they walked. Why? Zara Kithara paused at what appeared to be a doorway made of solid light. Because, Captain Sarah Chen, you are not the first human I have observed. For 3 of your years I have watched your species, learning your languages, studying your nature. Most humans, when faced with extinction, choose either violence or surrender. But you found a third option. Sarah frowned. What are you talking about? The colony ship New Hope, Zara Kithara said softly. When it was trapped in the asteroid field with no way out, you didn't order weapons fire on the asteroids. That would have created deadly debris. You didn't surrender to slow starvation. Instead, you used the ship's life support system to create controlled explosive decompressions, turning your own vessel into a thruster to navigate through impossible gaps. Sarah's breath caught. That mission was classified and it had happened 2 years ago in a remote system. How could you possibly know about that? I was there, Captain, watching, learning. That day I knew I had found what my people have searched for across the galaxy, a species that doesn't just survive, but transforms survival into something greater. They passed through the light doorway into a chamber that took Sarah's breath away. The room was spherical, with no clear floor or ceiling, and filled with floating platforms of what looked like crystallized music. At the center was a raised dais surrounded by swirling energies that made Sarah's skin tingle. The bonding chamber, Zara Kithara explained. Here, the ancient ceremony can take place. But first, you must understand what you're truly choosing. Sarah stepped onto one of the floating platforms, which immediately adjusted to support her weight. I'm choosing to save my crew and maybe both our species. What else is there to understand? Zara Kithara's form solidified further, becoming almost entirely human in appearance, a tall woman with silver hair and eyes like captured nebulae. The bond between us will be real, Sarah, not just ceremonial. You will share my thoughts, my memories, my very existence, and I will share yours. For how long? Barring violence or accident, forever. The bond grants extended life measured in centuries, not decades. Sarah felt a chill despite the warm energy surrounding them. And if the collective rejects our bond, then we will be exiled to the spaces between realities, neither fully alive nor truly dead, and our peoples will face the same fate. On Sarah's communicator, Dr. Webb's voice crackled through the alien energies. Captain, we're picking up massive energy readings from your location. Also, the collective fleet will reach us in 8 minutes. Sarah looked at Zara Kithara, seeing her own uncertainty reflected in those cosmic eyes. What exactly does the ceremony involve? Zara stepped closer, her form now entirely human, except for the faint luminescence that seemed to emanate from within. Physical contact to establish the initial connection. An exchange of life essence. You will breathe in part of my energy. I will absorb part of your biological pattern. And finally, a declaration of intent before the universe itself. And then, we discover if two impossibly different forms of life can truly become one. Sarah thought of her crew, waiting in fear aboard the horizon's edge. She thought of Earth, of humanity's long struggle to reach the stars only to face extinction at the moment of first contact. She thought of Zara Kithara, an immortal being choosing mortality for the chance at something real. All right, she said, stepping onto the central dais. Let's find out what happens when the impossible becomes possible. Zara Kithara joined her, and immediately the air around them began to glow with soft, pulsing light. Place your hands on mine, she instructed, and whatever you feel, don't let go. The moment their skin touched, Sarah's world exploded into sensation. She was flying through nebulae, feeling the birth and death of stars, experiencing the loneliness of immortal existence and the desperate hope of connection. At the same time, she felt Zara Kithara experiencing human memories, the taste of earth, rain, the warmth of friendship, the brief precious flame of mortal life. I, Zara Kithara of the Luminous Collective, the alien being said, her voice now echoing through dimensions. Take Sarah Chen of Earth as my bondmate, my anchor to reality, my chosen connection to the passionate realm of flesh and time. Sarah found her voice, though it seemed to come from everywhere at once. I, Sarah Chen of Earth, accept Zara Kithara as my bondmate, my bridge to the cosmos, my chosen connection to the realm of energy and eternity. The chamber exploded with light, and Sarah felt her consciousness expanding beyond her body, touching the edges of space and time while somehow remaining anchored to her own humanity. She was still herself, but more, connected to cosmic forces she'd never dreamed existed. Then, abruptly, everything went dark. When her vision cleared, Sarah found herself back on the bridge of the horizon's edge, but everything had changed. She could see energy patterns flowing through the ship's systems, hear the quantum fluctuations in the hull, feel the emotions of her crew like tangible things, and beside her stood Zara Kithara, now appearing fully human but still radiating that inner light. Captain, Liu called out, her voice filled with awe, the collective fleet has stopped. They're waiting. On the main screen, the dark being from before appeared, its angular features now showing something that might have been respect. Bond has been forged, it intoned. Impressive, but now comes the true test. Can it survive the judgment of the collective? Sarah felt Zara Kithara's hand slip into hers, their joined consciousness providing strength neither could have found. Alone. We're ready, Sarah said, her voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. What's your judgment? The dark being's form rippled with what Sarah now recognized as amusement. The judgment, human, is not ours to make. You have 3 days to prove that your bond serves the greater good of both species. Fail, and exile awaits. Succeed, and, Sarah prompted,
And you will discover that the galaxy holds wonders and terrors beyond your current imagination. The bonding was merely the first step in a much larger journey. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah and her crew staring at each other in the
aftermath of the impossible. Captain, Dr. Webb said quietly, I'm reading unprecedented energy signatures from both you and our guest. Whatever happened over there, you're not entirely human anymore. Sarah looked at her hands, seeing them but also seeing through them to the quantum patterns beneath. No, Doctor. I'm more human than I've ever been, and I have 3 days to prove it. But as she spoke, she felt something else through her bond, with Zara Kithara, a distant presence ancient and hungry stirring in the depths of space. Something that had been watching their encounter with great interest. The real test, Sarah realized, was yet to come. Chapter 4. The Judgment of Stars. 2 days into their trial period, Sarah stood in the ship's observation lounge, watching. the stars with eyes that now saw far more than human vision should allow. Through her bond with Zarakithra, she could perceive the quantum threads that connected all matter, the subtle energies that flowed between worlds, and something else, growing darkness at the edge of her awareness. "You feel it too," Zarakithra said, materializing beside her. Over the past 48 hours, she had learned to shift between her energy form and a solid human appearance at will. "Something's coming," Sarah confirmed. "Something that's been watching us." Their bond had proven more successful than either had dared hope. Sarah retained her humanity while gaining enhanced perception and longevity. Zarakithra had regained her connection to physical reality while maintaining her cosmic awareness. Together, they were something new, a bridge between two forms of existence, but success brought new challenges. "Captain," Dr. Webb's voice came. "Over the intercom, we're receiving a priority transmission from the collective flagship. They want to speak with both you and Zarakithra immediately." Sarah and Zarakithra exchanged glances, their shared consciousness allowing wordless communication. They both felt it. This wasn't about their trial anymore. On the bridge, the angular dark being from before appeared on the main screen, but its demeanor had changed completely. Where before there had been cold authority, now there was urgent concern. "Bonded ones," it said without preamble. "Our watchers at the Galactic Rim report disturbing news. The Void Feeders have taken notice of your union." "Void Feeders?" Sarah asked, feeling Zarakithra's sudden spike of terror through their bond. "Ancient, enemies of all life," Zarakithra explained, her voice tight with fear. "Beings that exist in the spaces between realities, feeding on the energy of living worlds. They were banished eons ago, but if they've noticed our bond..." The dark being's form rippled with grim confirmation. "The energy signature of your joining has acted as a beacon. They approach the galaxy's edge as we speak, drawn by the possibility of a new form of existence to consume." Sarah felt her crew's eyes on her, sensing their growing fear even without enhanced perception. "What do they want?" "To feed on the unique energy pattern you and Zarakithra have created," the collective representative replied. "Your bond represents something they have never encountered, the marriage of mortal passion and immortal power. To them, it is the ultimate delicacy." "How long do we have?" Sarah asked. "Their vanguard will reach this system in 18 hours. Their main force," the being paused meaningfully, "will arrive shortly after." Zarakithra stepped forward, her human appearance flickering with agitation. "There is one possibility. The ancient texts speak of a legend, that a properly bonded pair working in perfect harmony could access the primal forces that shaped the universe itself." "You're talking about wielding the power of creation," the dark being said, its voice filled with awe and concern. "Such power has not been accessed since the first civilizations transcended." Sarah looked around her bridge, seeing the faces of people who had followed her across the galaxy, trusting her to keep them safe. Then she looked at Zarakithra, feeling the depth of their connection and the potential that lay dormant within it. "What would we have to do?" Zarakithra took her hand, and immediately Sarah felt their consciousness merge more deeply than ever before. Through their combined awareness, she saw possibilities stretching across space and time. Potential futures where humanity and the luminous collective worked together to push back the darkness, and other futures where entire galaxies fell to hungering void. "We would have to open ourselves completely to each other," Zarakithra explained. "No barriers, no secrets, no holding back. The risk is that we might lose ourselves entirely in the merger, becoming something that is neither human nor luminous but something else entirely." "And if we don't try?" Sarah asked. The dark being answered grimly. "Then the Void Feeders will consume your bond energy, use it to anchor themselves permanently in our reality, and begin devouring everything that lives." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of decision. When she opened them, her choice was clear. "Dr. Webb, prepare the ship for combat operations, but defensive only. We're not fighting the Void Feeders with weapons." "Captain?" Webb asked, confused. Sarah turned to address her entire crew, her voice carrying the harmonic resonance of her bond. We're going to fight them with something they can't comprehend, the power of connection itself. Over the next several hours, Sarah and Zara Cathara worked together to prepare for what might be their final test. They practiced deepening their bond, learning to merge their consciousness while maintaining their individual identities. It was like learning to dance on the edge of infinity. "Captain," Weapons Officer Park reported, "long-range sensors are picking up massive distortions at the system's edge. Whatever's coming, it's big." Through the view screen, they watched as reality itself seemed to tear open, revealing glimpses of the void between dimensions. From those tears emerged shapes that hurt to look at directly, geometric impossibilities that existed in too many dimensions at once, moving with predatory grace toward their small fleet. "Void feeders," Zara Cathara whispered, her form flickering, with primal fear. "I can feel their hunger from here." The lead creature, if it could be called that, pulsed with dark energy as it approached. When it spoke, its voice came from inside everyone's mind simultaneously. "Bonded ones," it said, the words causing physical pain. "We have come to feast on your union. Surrender your energy willingly and your deaths will be swift." Sarah stood, feeling Zara Cathara beside her. Their hands joined and their consciousness beginning to merge on a level deeper than they had ever attempted. "I don't think so," Sarah replied, her voice now carrying cosmic harmonics. "We offer you something different, a demonstration of what creation can do when it works in perfect unity." The Void Feeder's laughter was like the sound of dying universes. "Creation is weak, entropy is eternal. We will consume your bond and use its power to unmake everything you cherish." Sarah felt Zara Cathara's consciousness fully merge with her own, their combined being becoming something magnificent and terrifying. Through their unity, they reached out to touch the primal forces, the fundamental energies that had shaped matter from void, that had sparked the first stars into existence, that had given birth to life itself. "Then let us show you," Sarah said, her voice now speaking for both of them. "What happens when two forms of existence choose love over fear, unity over isolation, creation over destruction?" The space around them exploded with light as Sarah and Zara Cathara became something new, not human, not luminous, but a perfect fusion of both. Their combined will reached out across space and time, touching the deepest mysteries of existence itself. And the Void Feeders, for the first time in eons, felt something they had never experienced before. Fear. The battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. Epilogue. The new dawn 6 months later, Sarah stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the first joint human luminous facility, watching ships from a dozen species dock at the massive structure. The battle with the Void Feeders had lasted only minutes, but its effects would ripple across the galaxy for millennia to come. When she and Zara Cathara had merged their consciousness and touched the primal forces, they hadn't just driven back the ancient enemy. They had fundamentally changed the nature of reality in their local galaxy. The barriers between dimensions had strengthened, making it impossible for the Void Feeders to return. More importantly, they had demonstrated that cooperation between different forms of life could create something greater than the sum of its parts. "Admiring our handiwork?" Zara Cathara asked, appearing beside her in her preferred human form. Over the months, she had grown more comfortable with physical existence, while Sarah had learned to perceive reality on cosmic scales. "Just thinking about how much has changed," Sarah replied. Their bond had stabilized into something unprecedented, a permanent merger that enhanced both beings while preserving their individual identities. They were still separate people, but also something more. Through the view screen, they could see the horizon's edge docked alongside collective vessels, human engineers working with energy beings to develop technologies that neither species could have imagined alone. Dr. Webb had published 3 papers on trans-dimensional biology, while Liu had become the galaxy's first human luminous interpreter. "The council session starts in an hour," Zara Cathara reminded her. "Representatives from 17 species want to discuss establishing formal bonds with their own volunteers." Sarah nodded. What had begun as a desperate gamble to save her crew had evolved into something far larger. The success of their bond, had inspired other species to attempt similar connections, creating a new form of cosmic civilization based on unity rather than conquest. "Any word from the deep space monitors?" Sarah asked. "The void feeders have retreated beyond the galactic rim, but they're not gone. Our watchers report increased activity in the void spaces between galaxies. They're adapting, learning from our encounter." Sarah felt a familiar thrill of anticipation. Through their bond, they had glimpsed possibilities that stretched far beyond their current achievements. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers they had yet to discover. "Then we'll keep growing stronger," she said. "Keep learning, keep connecting, keep building bridges between the impossible." A communication chime sounded, and Liu's voice came through the station's system. "Captain Chen, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Rim. Long-range scouts have detected something new, structures that appear to be built from crystallized time itself, and they're not abandoned." Sarah and Zara exchanged glances, their shared consciousness already racing with possibilities. Somewhere in the galaxy, another impossible discovery awaited. Another chance to expand the boundaries of what life could become. "Looks like we're needed elsewhere," Sarah said, already planning their next expedition. "Together?" Zara asked, though she already knew the answer. "Always together," Sarah confirmed. "After all, we still have a universe to explore." As they prepared to leave Unity Station for their next adventure, neither of them noticed the faint signal being transmitted from deep space. A message from the void feeders to something ancient and patient in the spaces between galaxies. Something that had been waiting for just this opportunity to make its presence known. The bond between Sarah and Zara had saved two species and changed the nature of galactic civilization. But in doing so, they had also awakened something that had slumbered since the universe was young. Their greatest challenge still lay ahead, waiting in the darkness between the stars. But that, as they say, is another story. The end.